welcome, everyone. This is the first official with guest recording of LightWork. I'm so excited. This is a vision, a dream, maybe even a calling, if you will, that I've had for a while. And I am stepping out finally on recording this work that I call light work. And there's three elements of light work that will be pulled into every episode. And if you haven't watched or checked out the first intro episode, it'll tell you all about it in more detail. But in essence, light work shows up for me in my life in three ways. There's light like illumination, wisdom, sharing knowledge, teaching, learning. There's light like levity, lightheartedness, and that incorporates joy and play and all of the things, laughter, that type of light. And then there's light like weightless. When you release things, when you let things go, you're shedding. To me, that is the well being and the wellness practices that I bring into my life and into my coaching practice. And so, every episode of Light Work, which you're watching now, you will probably encounter a part, if not all, of those elements of light. And so we're excited to bring it to you today again for this first recorded episode with guests of Light Work. And we really hope that it lands with you, that you get something out of it, that you leave here feeling light, whether it's through some levity, whether it is through some illumination, or whether it's through some well being or mindfulness practice that you get out of our conversation today. And speaking of our conversation today, I have some amazing guests. These are my friends. This is, I call them friends, but they're truly my sisters. They are family. And I am so honored to have them to share in this space with me today. I have Dr. Naeema. She is a reinvention coach and author of Raised as a Lie. Dr. Naeema Olatunje, let me make sure I say the full name, as well as Anika Apple, who is a trusted advisor and spiritual strategist and the author of the new book that is coming real soon called Healing is Required. And I'll make sure I put all the information in the show notes because you can pick up both of those books and it'll truly bless you. So, when I first thought of recording this episode specifically, I had had many conversations with, my two sisters here, as well as others that are in our circle and network. And there's just this heaviness that has been present in the world right now, and especially in the United States where we live. And um, I've been just, there is this way that I'm showing up in the world where I have been blocking all forms of media, blocking all forms of the news. And it's something that I chose to do because I want to protect my space. I want to protect my well being and my mental capacity. And that choice for me was a way to do that. I feel like the world is noisy. I feel like the news is full of trash, quite honestly. And I just don't feel good. Like when I watch the news, when I consume those things, I always felt awful. I felt heavy. You could slip into a mild depression watching the news in the US these days. Like it's a lot. And so I want to make sure that I'm still staying informed, but the question I have is how do you operate in this world today, um, if you want to protect yourself, not watching the news and not, feel like this heaviness? Like how do you stay informed without feeling heavy? And Anika, I'll start with you.
Sure. Thank you again for Myra for having us. It is an honor to be here as your first guests. I think this is a tough question, right? And I want to start off with just posing a question back. Well, what information is important to you? Because I think what we find ourselves doing is being gravitated to the sensationalism of things, or like what is really truth. And a lot of times, what is perpetuated in the media is I don't want to call it an exaggeration because that's not always factual, right? But it can be embellishment of what is true. It can be positioning it in a certain way. And I think there's an opportunity for us to be really clear about what's really important to us on our path that we get from our relationship with the divine. So,
Mm.
similar to you, I don't watch the news. I get news from a lot of different sources. There are people in my network who know what is of interest to me. As a matter of fact, I have someone in my network that shares with me every time something that has come through the divine guidance episode. They're like,
Mhm.
"Hey, check this out. Oh, there's a poultry recall. You talked about that." So I'm getting it from different places and it's filtered, which I love.
Mm.
And how did I get to that place, right? One of the things that I said to God was, because I'm intentionally, like you, pulling myself away from listening to all the sensationalism, I know that I also need to be in tune with what's happening. So, outside of what you are showing me, which often is sometimes immediate, but mostly is a little bit further out, how
Mm.
do I have the what's in the now? And I find that it shows up.
Mm.
Maybe one of my children comes in and they're like, "Did you hear about?" My mom calls and says something. I might be talking to one of the women in our circle, right? And so the information that's most important to me is flowing from those places, and the rest comes from God. I think that the way we care for ourselves in this moment and separate ourselves from hearing what the masses are hearing is to have more time alone, more time with our journal, more time in meditation, and more time with God, period. Because
Mm.
otherwise, people will have us swept up in their storms, and we are not intended to be there.
Mm. My
Full
goodness.
stop.
It
Full stop.
is. We're not intended to be a part of someone else's storm. I have to deal with my own storm. I definitely don't want to deal with anyone else's.
That part.
Naeema, what about you?
It's interesting because I was thinking as you were talking, Anika, I recently, as you all know, spent 10 days at a silent meditation course. Ooh, I was about to use the
Mm.
R word. It was not a retreat, y'all. This course had us in complete silence and complete isolation.
Mm.
And while I also am extremely sensitive to the same old story, different new slant and or deliverer of whatever broadcaster or reader of said teleprompter on
Mm.
whatever variety of channel. I stopped watching probably 2 decades ago. I also get my news from a variety of sources, but I am not a consumer, and that is because I learned a long time ago to protect my own mind
Mm.
and to take back my mind, as Reverend Michael Beckwith has his own podcast called Take Back Your Mind. And I
Mm.
just thought that it was so brilliant because we do actively have to retract our own self from what I believe is nothing less than the matrix. And we have to remove the tentacles that try to infiltrate our thinking and our thought process. And so I'm at this 10-day retreat, and never once did I say like, "Ooh, I wonder what's going on," right? I really was immersed in the intentionality behind the retreat, which was to go within. And so we're driving home after 11 days, and it seems like the world is going crazy. I've got over 200 text messages and
Oh.
voicemails and all the things as I'm returning, and they warn you like, don't re-immerse yourself, like don't just jump right in. And so I spent time slowly like choosing the text messages from the recipient, like, I know that I could read her message and it would be safe. And the world just delivered just another 10 days of just more madness. Like the only
Mhm.
thing that I feel like I gained from tuning in was just another layer and a level of the veil that is created. And I believe it is absolutely intentional to drive a wedge between us and ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And and in that intentionality, as long as we are not connected not only to source but to ourselves, then we are easy prey for whatever. And that doesn't always have to be in maliciousness, but it certainly is somebody else's game at play. And I also am not interested in playing somebody else's game. I have my
Come
own thoughts and dreams and goals and wishes. And how can I play somebody else's game if I'm not playing mine and if I'm not in tuned? And for me, that means retracting my attention from, the daily olds.
Mm,
goodness.
so
So
good.
good. Playing your own game. And you talked about this 10-day silent retreat. So let's just talk about silence, right? It is I- even living alone, like sometimes it's hard for me to just be silent in my own place. I end up like turning music on, or God forbid, I'm talking to myself and then I catch myself like in a whole conversation. Like silence is not typically easy to do. And you spent 10 days in silence.
Yeah.
I think that, a part of this turning off the news and not consuming it, not just because it, causes fear, but it's also very noisy. So I wonder for you, how did you experience silence? How was that different for you? Like, what did it cause you to have to change about yourself, or what did you even learn about yourself in this? Like, tell us about silence for 10 days. I'm just so intrigued by
Mm.
that.
The thing that I appreciate the most was their intentionality. So the meditation center has its own game that they're playing, and they are hyper focused on their intentionality around the details. So if you're going to create courses that are 10-day, 20 days, some people come and sit for 6 months, some
Mm,
people come and sit there for a year, right? And for your audience, so that they know and understand, there's residence halls there at this
mm,
meditation center. And so every one of their courses is in silence. And except for the first half of the day and the last half of the day, whether it's 10-day, 3-day, 20-day, they are all in silence. And because they have courses that are on a rolling basis, 95% of this center, this piece of land that spans how many of our acres, is in silence. So
mm,
there are layers and levels to the profound quiet that is there. So when everybody else is quiet and in silence, you're not hearing like these sort of ancillary, sounds other
yeah.
than nature. And I felt like that was profound and intentional and really appreciated, right? Because we can get distracted by other people's noises and sounds. And then when it's time to go within, right, it can be really noisy in there. And it can also be really scary in there. So we
Mm,
we have to be um, aware of how that our mind works in silence. And so when you're walking into this space of quiet, that you can just be aware. There's no reason to judge it, right? And the first couple of days, your mind is still going. It takes a few days for it to settle into, oh, we're being quiet. But I
mm,
just wanted to speak to one more thing about the intentionality. So, how they set it up is you're creating your own individual meditation course amongst others. So, there's
huh,
60-ish people that are there, but not only are you in noble silence, did you take a vow of not just silence, but noble silence? Like that involves your integrity, that involves your honor. Like this is noble silence. And so all of you have taken the same vow, but you're not just not using your vocal cords. You're not expressing on your face. You're not eye contacting and then saying all the things that we can through the windows to our souls. You are not gesturing, right? Like You spend your time and you're walking from your residence hall to the meditation hall to the dining hall, and you keep your gaze about 2 or 3 feet in front of you, but it's lowered. You're not looking at the world, trying to
Mm.
take in, you're not encouraging inspiration externally. So when they mean quiet, they intentionally mean that we are going within. And that to me was profound. You have zero distractions. There is no phone, no devices, no journal, no pen. You are not in communication
Not
with
even a
any of these
journal, Naima?
people.
You're a writer. You didn't even get
Nothing.
to write?
I didn't. I didn't. I may and or may not have used, borrowed a grease pen that was in the kitchen to write on said grease board. And I may or may not have used some napkins to write some things down on said. It was a hot mess because it bled all. I mean, allegedly, allegedly.
Maybe.
And that was like day 7. Anyways, the point is that the intentionality behind the quietness, I just was in gratitude. I found
Mm.
myself in extreme gratitude that they thought of everything. There are signs that, like, you don't have to think or imagine or question anything. They've already addressed it. All of your needs are met. They're met way before you ever even think or been concerned. They've been doing this for 45 years, right? Like there's
Mhm.
nothing that you in your little world can imagine that hasn't already been addressed. So fear not. Like everybody's like, but what if, yeah, they already got that. And so
Mhm.
you get to, in my opinion, you get to just relax into the silence. There's nothing to be concerned about. And so,
What
in that way, it lowers your nervous system. So then you really can do the inner work with the capital W.
what did you learn about yourself? What wisdom came up in the silence?
Mm. That I am my own guide.
Mm.
We, I have given so much power over to so many people outside of myself because I loved them, because I respected them, because they were successful, because they had done things I had not, or they had done things, in my opinion, better,
Ooh.
because they were older than me, because they were more connected than me. Um, because they were wealthier than me. And that deferment to other people's opinions and thoughts and like, well, what did they think or what would they do? Like, oh, what would Jesus do? I mean, in my
Mm.
brain, it was like, what would Anika do? What would Myra do?
Mhm.
Like the people that I cherish the most. My parents have transitioned, and my grandparents have transitioned. My aunts and uncles, like the people that I would have gone to in my family, have all shuffled off the mortal coil. And so I have replaced them with my chosen family. And I realized that what I have begun to do in many areas, and it was just like almost, it was almost, it was unconscious, but it was almost to the point where I hadn't even noticed that I had also given away my own voice
Mm.
in just small areas because I'm super opinionated. So I don't mean like, oh, Naeema was living through everybody else. I just mean like when it really counted, it wasn't my voice that was
Mm.
coming forward. I was seeking somebody else's. And in those moments when the meditation got deep and challenging and you can't move because it's 10 hours and you agreed and signed up, and Vipassana literally means to hard sit. And I had to go within, and I became my own guide, and that was pretty revolutionary for me.
Wow.
So
You are your
beautiful.
own guide. Yeah. Anika, I saw when Naeema said, "I am my own guide," it almost like hit you in a deep place. And it was a great reminder for me as well too, just that that external validation sometimes that I think we seek or feel we need is not always necessary. Anika, what's coming up for you?
Yeah. Well, first, I know my sister, so um, it's so beautiful because when we are very fortunate, let us just say that, because we see each other, right? And so we spend so much time doing so many different things in our lives, fun stuff, all light work, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we get to reflect back to each other, and I I don't know if I would have articulated it that way, but this is what I've seen her journey um, opening up to remember and trust her voice louder than all the rest, like that they can be as confirmation, and at the same time it's very resonant for me, I believe also resonant for you, because we've all gone through this place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Earlier this year for me, I had an experience, and part of what came through that was like, you actually are it. Like, you were it. You were who you've been waiting for. So similar to being a guide, right? And I had been carrying this massive boulder, massive. And I didn't realize that it was like the collection of all of this energy from people in the world, like the things that I sat with people and when I held space with them and all of that. Somehow I thought I was supposed to carry that. And so in this experience, I literally was taking this boulder and I was like panting almost, like, I can't carry it any further. God, please take it, right? And God's like, you were never supposed to carry this. And as I laid that boulder there and God made it just, miraculously disappear, returned it into the earth as love. God reminded me like that I'm not to carry these things. I am to do light work, to
Mm-hmm.
not carry it, not carry the weight of those things, but instead to walk the path and be a trailblazer. And I can confidently say, because I know y'all so well, that we share in this role of being trailblazers. And so, how can a trailblazer look to anyone other than to themselves and, higher self, God, the divine, whatever the listeners align to as what is larger than themselves that they tap into? How can you look anywhere but there and within yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Because there might be a moment where we look up ahead and I see Naeem over here and I see Myra over there, but I'll blink again and I will be, the furthest along in my particular path for that moment, because that's how it works. So if we are looking to one another, we will miss the opportunity to see the unveiling of ourselves. And that's what, every time you talk about the retreat, Naima, I'm just like, oh, it had so many
Mm-hmm.
gifts to give. And even though we weren't there with you, it has given us so many gifts as you've shared. So thank you again for sharing your story.
Yes. Oh, I love that image too. And we're all on our own journey. And I think that is just a beautiful reminder of that, that we shouldn't be looking, to our left and right, trying to figure out like, oh, well, how are they doing it? Or should I be doing this? Or maybe I'm behind, or, like all of the comparing and getting distracted. It is truly not your journey if you're looking at someone else. I read a quote in a book that said, if the path is clear, it's probably not your path. It's
So
probably not
good.
yours.
So
Somebody else has
good.
been down that path.
So good. And
Someone else.
and if we're honest, right? Like, this is how we've been conditioned to think
Mm-hmm.
that we are supposed to mark and measure ourselves against
Mm,
other people. A good friend of mine said this morning, we were talking about something biblical, and she was like, the beauty of our life and this part of our journey is that we actually have the examples, like for those who follow the Bible. I know that's not everyone's choice, but we
mhm,
have the examples to at least know what it was like, some semblance of it, because many of the experiences that we have are similar. And they didn't have that. So we have something, but our something to look at is not our neighbors, right, who are going through it at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the things that can, what we were talking about really is being reminded that we can make it through anything, because there is example after example after example of people who
Yeah.
put themselves in really tough situations and they made it through. And they didn't make it through because they had an answer book or because they were following someone else. They made it through because of faith, because they believed, because they
Mm-hmm.
trusted in something beyond themselves. And that's what we have the opportunity to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. I in my mind, like I thought this conversation was going to be about like fear and how noise in the world, this noisy world can be fear inducing. And I, had a conversation. I get all these realizations from conversations I have with people. That's why I love this work. Like I love convening and just conversing because that's where wisdom comes from, right? Um, and he tells this story, and the story wasn't even about what I'm about to share, the part that stood out to me. It was about something completely different, but he's casually telling a story and he was like, yeah, because, fear is a choice, and then continues to just go on with the story. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Pause.
Rewind.
Stop. Rewind. What? Oh, yeah, fear is a choice. What do you mean? It's not something that consumes me and I can't get out of, and it controls me and makes me make decisions out of desperation. And no, it's a choice. I can choose whether I stay in fear or not. Game changer. Like I had never thought about fear as a choice. It is a
Or
choice.
that you might not need to erect a whole condo in that valley of fear, like you were supposed to pass through it
Don't build
because it's
land? What do you,
necessary, but like not a whole
huh?
resort. That's not what we're
What?
doing.
And then inviting friends, come stay. Come hang out in this place of fear that I built.
Hmm.
So, how does that show up for you all when you think about fear? And we started talking about the all of the news, right? And the media and the things that are going on in the US that are heavy and daunting and almost makes you want to stay in a place of just comfort. Like, let me just stay inside because outside is scary. Like, if fear is a choice and I don't have to stay there, what does that mean for opportunity? Even when the world feels like it's falling apart, you mean that I can still thrive? I can still thrive while the world is falling apart. Please explain.
Mm, mm.
I wrote a whole book about it. Because
Just,
that is,
just, a,
its
just a
healing is
tiny hint.
required. And the next book in the series is destruction is required. Like it, that literally is it. Yes, you can thrive in the midst of it. And one of my let me just say this, that fear has been my biggest adversary. Like, we talk
Mm,
about like what is our challenge. It has been that. It's fear of rejection, fear of success. It's fear, like there's just so much. And one day I was sitting in this room and I was meditating, and literally I hear Jesus say to me, "You are the generator of your own fear." I had asked the question, I had the nerve to ask the question, why does this thing keep coming up? I keep thinking that I battled fear and I won, and it keeps coming back. And Jesus said, because you are the generator of your own fear.
my.
And after I came out of the resistance from that, because I had a whole entire attitude. Like I would never, I want to be over the
Side eye.
fear. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
be
yeah.
courageous. I want to be leaning in and doing all the things.
Mm,
Why would I generate more fear? Why would I manufacture fear? And then I saw it. I began to witness it. Like
mm,
the things that I said, that I declared, and then I watched things not appear in the way that I wanted them to, not in the way that I expected. And then fear crept back in, right? And there's so many
mm,
examples, and I won't take you down that rabbit hole, but I do want to say this. The thing for us to hold on to is that if we can manufacture fear, we can manufacture faith. So when your friend
mm.
said choice, it is a
Yeah,
choice. It's
yeah.
not a choice that we are always recognizing that we're making. Sometimes we don't make a decision because we are so fearful, and that in itself is also a choice. It's a
Mm.
choice not to take the risk to decide to do something different. That's a choice that leaves us in fear, right? So part of the work that we get to do through our healing journey is to decide if what's on the other side of our fear is more valuable to us than where we are today. You
Hmm.
mentioned the word comfort, and this has been a big theme recently. I've been doing some work and conversations around this, that comfort is not king. Comfort is the cage. Comfort
Ooh.
is the cage. It
Oh.
holds you still because you think that this is good enough, right? But
Mm.
let me take you through this for a second, right? So just imagine that you're here and you're like, oh, it feels really comfortable here, and something happens, it's not favorable, and you land down here, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought I'd be back down here again. And you're looking at where you used to be and you're like, oh, I got to get back up there, but this is feeling okay. And before you know it, you don't even remember where you were, that you were at that height because
Ah.
this has become comfortable, and then so on and so forth. You can be comfortable anywhere. You can choose to be comfortable anywhere. But the point of the matter is, this whole life's journey is about us making the decision to live at our birthright. And
Mm.
that's not down there,
Mm.
right? It's coming up a level and deciding that I will once again be comfortable after I do the thing that is the risk, the thing that is creating fear for me, the thing that I'm most fearful of that actually holds what it is that I truly desire in my life. When I do that, I will then find freedom, and freedom is actually real comfort because it cannot be taken away.
That is so good. And as you were saying it, I was just thinking about the different times in my life when I was comfortable, and it was not when I was growing. And it felt stagnant and complacent even. Like I'm thinking back, like the times that I have been the most uncomfortable were the times of the most growth.
Because
The
comfort is
most
the
growth.
cage. It's the
Comfort
cage.
is the
Comfort's the cage.
cage. Now, so Anika, I don't want listeners to get confused, and I'm even going to help myself not be confused by this. We talk about the soft life, we talk about a life of ease and all of that, and I'm here for it. I want more of it. Are you saying that's different than comfort, right? We can still have our life of ease, but it's different than you're saying comfort is the cage. Can you maybe
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit?
I'm talking about the comfort that is complacency. This thing
Ah,
that we talk about, this soft life, all of these things, this comes from freedom. So when you
ah,
are moving in alignment with the truth of who you are, when you are living life on purpose, which means you're growing, you acknowledge that in order to continue to deliver your purpose in this life, that you must still continue to do things that are challenging or that create more time of exploration of self. We think that because it is different than how we've been conditioned, that it's going to be really hard and difficult.
mm,
It is in the middle because you are now having to rewire, recondition yourself from all of the things that you've said or thought were the way that you had to live your life. I thought that being a corporate executive was the only way that I could define success in this lifetime. And
mm-hmm,
it's not.
mm.
I would not trade this. Sometimes being an entrepreneur, and Naeema, both of you know I'm ready to pull my hair out. But the reality is I've created a life and I also do work.
Mm-hmm.
My work is not my life, right? So shifting that narrative in and of itself has created more freedom for me. Freedom allows me to live into my purpose. That's what a real soft life is. It's not just, oh, I get
Mm.
my nails done and get my feet done and, take a nap every now and then. It's creating the lifestyle that
Mm,
really gives you true freedom. That's what real comfort is. What we call comfort is actually it's a nice way of couching the fact that we don't want to say yes to what's next. And I
my.
know you have some things to share, so I'll
Oh
pass
my.
the
I was thinking about how there's so many ways that we can define fear, and how that, there's these commercialized sort of slogans about being fearless, and
Mm,
and sort of vilifying this idea around fear because, you know um power paradigms that are governing with ideologies around, shifting and controlling people often utilize fear as their motivator, right?
Mm.
And getting people to do essentially what it is that they want, right? And I know that, historically, that fear has been used as a controller, and so thinking about that, I think that we as individuals have to redefine what fear is, and for ourselves individually, and understand that all the emotions are necessary, the wonderful
Mhm.
ones, the not so wonderful ones, that all of them are necessary. And to imagine that somehow one is better than the other, that we're always in search of and seeking happiness and joy and ease, but that's not the truth. The truth
Mhm.
is that all of them are valuable, all emotions, and we're supposed to be passing through them, and we are supposed to experience them all. But as we said before, this idea of erecting a condo or a all you can want in resort in this place, this valley, is not what our purpose is either,
Mm.
right? So recognizing that we can get stuck in the extremes. And I was just reminded of said Vipassana course, and the Buddhist philosophy and ideology is around, a lot of people think like, oh, it's just suffering. But that's not it. What it truly is accepting everything as
Mhm.
is, that we don't, that there isn't a need to change anything, that we become observers without
Mhm.
reaction, without judgment, that we simply observe what is. And from the place that we might have desires, and to create change in our life, the idea, as the Buddhists, you know, teach, is this idea around creating a life of your desires, of only the good times, is this idea around clinging to something that you want, that's desirable, but then spending all of your time in a version of anything that you don't desire, the unwanted. Like, I'm
Mm.
happy if I get everything that I want, but I'm unhappy if I get the unwanted things.
Yeah.
But you can choose to have this equanimity about your life. You can choose to be an observer. You can choose to become aware without reactions. And so, this idea of fear being used as a tool to control, if you come from a place of observation as opposed to reaction, then I believe that there is true freedom in that. And then
Mm.
the other thing that I find for myself personally, because I'm still making peace with as is, because this
Mm.
whole idea of like, oh, can't control it. Like, my default is, or can I? Right? Like, can't change it, or can I? Like,
Mm.
right? So in that way, I recognize that I'm still having the human experiences, and still trying to exert my own level of control, because I'm not accepting what is as is, right? Like,
Mm.
I want it to be different. So this is something that, God is still clearly working on me about. But the one thing that I have found, and I guess this is why the through line in my life really has been that I opt in, I volunteer to do hard shit. And
Mm.
I find value in it. And so to sit for 10 hours a day for 10 days is challenging in silence. Most people wouldn't sign up for it, but I'm going to sign up for it because I want to observe myself with an awareness in really challenging situations. And so for me, there isn't this level of fear around doing hard things. because I think that I've made peace and friends with at least the more overt part of my fear. Like
Yeah.
she's still going to come along. She's still going to hang out in the car, or depending on like how disruptive she is. Like if I can give her, like, we're taking this journey, and your role is you get to pick out the snacks, and you can choose the radio station that we're going to listen to, right, or the music. But if that heifer gets out of control, I'm a hog tie her ass in the trunk, right? Like, she's still coming. Like, you don't get to put her out. Like, fear is still there. She's relevant. It's
Yeah.
relevant, and it is the thing that we also can embrace and love. And you don't have to vilify it, and you don't have to say it's the worst thing ever, because it's the thing that has kept you alive, and there is
Mm.
value in it. And
Hmm.
also, she can't drive your bus, like where you're going. She cannot be the director of it. And so I just think that there are different components as we approach this subject around fear, and like, what does that mean? But ultimately, for me, it has become, be an observer, like, be aware,
Mm-hmm.
don't walk in ignorance, you know, and simultaneously recognize that you have power beyond whatever the narrative is of whatever version of your personality that's trying to be heard and is screaming the loudest in any given moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anika, I know you had something to say.
No, I was just going to say you raised so many great points about taking
Yes.
fear on the journey with you, and I definitely subscribe to that. One of the things I wanted to come back to is this piece about why fear is important. So you said fear keeps us alive, right? And fear is it causes that kind of healthy stress for us that
Mhm.
does keep us safe, that gets us out of bed in the morning. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, just with your background and expertise?
That's for
Oh, wait,
Naeema.
you're
Yeah,
talking to me?
yeah.
We're
Like,
all like,
Oh,
as a
like,
physician,
which
I
one?
mean,
Which one? Oh, yes, putting the doctor hat on. So
yes.
the thing that I think that's really cool about our bodies, and recognizing we live in this, physical universe, and it is guided and governed by these universal laws, the truths of it, and that our bodies really are subject to all of them, right? Like, you can choose not to believe in gravity, jump off a building, and you're gonna find out, right? Like, we
Mhm.
we can we can challenge things that we cannot see. Um, and yet we recognize that we are still governed by them, and recognizing that our nervous system is the thing, and that I think all of us are becoming more and more aware of, like, how then do we create a world in which that physically or physiologically, that we are governed by, this, autonomic nervous system, which is, your sympathetic, your parasympathetic, but then there's a whole other part of your nervous system which just runs automatically. Like,
Mhm.
you don't ever have to tell your small intestines that it's time to metabolize the food. Like, you don't have to tell your appendix, like, this is the corner for which that we're transitioning from one part of the large intestine or small intestines into the large intestine, and it's got a whole job, and gas exchange in your lungs, and how that your heart regulates based off of the different valve. Like, those are all autonomic. Like, you never have to think about all of those things. And I think that that's the part that maybe that we don't quite appreciate, that our bodies are doing these things without our guidance, without our instruction, and it is there. Thank goodness that we don't have to do any of those things on a conscious level, because then how could we go to sleep, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
right, like, your heart is going to continue to beat, and your lungs will breathe, and your spleen will continue gathering up all the old red blood cells, and shipping them off to the lymphatic system so that your liver can make new ones. Like, we don't have to think about any of those things. And I think that the beauty is that when we recognize that we are this mammal that is, that is governed by these physical laws, but also, that these universal truths that should we decide that we're going to listen to our intuition that is talking to us all the time through
Mhm.
our body, through our gut reactions, through the physiological experiences that we have when something comes up in our eyes and it's fearful and our eyes dilate and our breath becomes more shallow and all the blood shunts away from digesting food to go to our extremities so we can do the thing that it knows that we have to do to keep ourselves alive. Once again, I just think that if we are aware of those processes that take place, that we don't have to live in a state of like, oh my God, right? Like
Mhm.
the universe is unfolding for your greatest good and to your
Listen.
benefit. Your body will 1000 is already designed to take care of it, even when you drive through McDonald's, even when you go out and hang out and you might have a cocktail, right? Like
Yes.
even then. And
Mhm.
that's the thing that I think that I love that it's already built in trust. And isn't trust and faith the opposite of the
Of
thing that we've
fear.
been talking about? Is fear and externally, like Myra, you can say all the things that you want, but you know what you're not doing? You are not telling my kidneys how that they need to process the amount of water I drink. Like that's all
And
external.
isn't that the as is that you talked about in the Vipassana? Like, isn't that
Yeah.
the trust that you accept things as is? Yes, we're going to plan. Yes, we're going to do all of these. But at the end of the day, it's the acceptance, right? And so you talked about the suffering. The way suffering was explained to me was its resistance, right? Suffering is resistance. Surrendering is the acceptance. So whenever you feel like you're in this place of suffering, ask yourself, what am I resisting? Like, what am I not accepting as is? There is some resistance there. That is truly the definition of the suffering, right?
Yes.
So I
So good.
started off talking about how, and I may have not said it on this episode, but in some episode, how I knew about this vision for light work way before I ever recorded an episode, way before this first episode with guests and all the things. Light work was placed on my heart. And I waited. And I said I needed to have this done. And I said, oh, but I don't have a production team. Oh, I don't have editing skills. Oh, I don't have all of it. Name something. I got creative with the excuses, right? And I realized that was fear. It was fear of me committing to something and saying, I'm going to do a thing. And oh, people might look at me as like having the answers, or I set these expectations that people may expect this of me if I go out and I'm going to say that I have something to share, right? I have to be an expert. Like I might need to have a doctor in front of my name. I might need all of these things. And it kept me complacent and probably comfortable, Anika, because I was comfortable not stepping outside of my comfort zone and doing something that I thought was hard. And fear was in that situation, Naeema, in the driver's seat. And then something changed, and I can't even put my finger on what it was, but it was almost like, when God like whispers, and then it's like a little soft nudge, and then he pushes your ass out into the ring,
Like,
the arena, and you got to show up and you have to do something. And that's where I got to. It was like somewhere in between the soft nudge and the push. And I was like, okay, okay, it's time. And oh, by the way, it doesn't hurt that, it's craziness going out in the world. And I had this almost like conviction that I need to put light out into the world. I need to share light in whatever way it shows up. I don't have to be an expert. I just have to be called. And that's it. And then
Mm,
fear dissipates. Like I don't even deal with the fear anymore because my creative voice and my voice and this light is so bright that the fear. I ain't heard her in a while. She ain't talking. She's not
Mm,
talking. She's quiet. Just because I made a decision to step out. Fear was still around, but I made a decision. Just that same choice. We talked about it. Fear is a choice. I made a choice to not give in to the fear. And I said, I'm going to do this. And whatever it is, and so it's supposed to be, it will be. And here we are.
If we could only remember that before we came, there was a plan, right? And we don't get to
Yeah.
know all the pieces of it. It's like we don't see, every single part of the direction always. You might look at the overview, but you can't see everything in a turn by turn, right?
Yeah.
And it's working out for your good because you're like, oh, wait a minute, the traffic loosened up. No, we're rerouting you because you're going to save 5 minutes by going this way.
That
That's what our
part.
journey is. And if we want the best possible experience for us, and that includes what we in turn get to give to others, then we've got to be open to how the
Mm.
journey unfolds for us and where it takes us. We struggle because we are focused on the outcome and the things that come up for us related to our trauma and
Mhm.
experiences, right? It's like you talked about, like what might people say? Like that stops so many of us. I know it did for
Mm.
me with like stepping forward to do the thing that I know I'm called to do. I'm like, people are gonna be like, you don't
Yeah.
hear from God. Listen,
Yeah.
because everybody else can't be wrong. When they're like, I was praying about that
Mm.
this morning, I'm like, okay, well, I didn't know. I wasn't there with you, right? So there's something about us getting out of our own way to just
Mm.
allow what we already determined was going to be our path. Like you knew, Myra, you wanted to gift light to this world. It wasn't like
Mm.
you heard light work and you were like, nah, that ain't me, dude. That's not, you were like, that resonates, but
Yeah.
I'm scared, but I don't
Mhm.
have this, but I think I need it to be these ways. And that's what Dr. Naeema was talking about earlier with the matrix. That's the
Yeah.
process of unconditioning ourselves, where we make the decision, like, I don't know how this thing is going to get done, but it is mine to do. My name is written in the heavens on this particular thing because it is my purpose.
Mm.
So it's waiting for me. And that means
Mhm.
there are people that I have the opportunity to inspire and touch, and everybody who watches Lightwork is they're going to have a metamorphosis because that's who you are. That's what you bring, right?
Mm.
So by saying yes, you get to walk in your path and they get to see themselves unfolding. They get
Mm.
to reflect back on their own journey and learn their way home to themselves because that's what you do as a
Mhm.
guide.
Woo, so good. Beautiful,
when we
beautiful.
get out of our own
Get out of our
way,
I
own
mean, that part.
way.
we open up for the people that are waiting for you. Like we imagine in our lovely egocentric ways that it is about us. And I think that that's what allows us to let fear
Mm.
or confusion or I don't have all the answers and this desire for perfection or whatever it is, isn't that just our ego that says, "Psst," right, like it's about
Mhm.
you, and so you've got to be camera ready and you have to have all the answers, and wait, you might need that extra degree and go spend some money doing this and that
Mm.
because that was about us.
Yeah.
And oftentimes being re-reminded, often from you all, that it ain't about me. Like if you could just get out of your own way, because there's some folks
Yeah.
back there who are waiting on you. And it reminds me of something that Reverend Michael says all the time, and that is the world has nothing for you. You have everything for the world. And
Mm.
if you do not deliver your gifts, then the rest of the world is robbed from the thing that you were tasked to bring.
Mm, mm, mm.
That's it.
Yes.
And I would offer and invite the audience, like my if I had a call to action, it would be what is stopping you? Or how have you allowed fear to stop you? And what is it stopping you from doing? And really, really sit with it. Like, you know what it is. You know what that thing is, that calling, that thing that wakes you up at night, the thing you've told a friend about, maybe written in your journal, you dream about it. Like, what is it? And I'll end with this question for you all, and I also invite the audience to really think about this question. But it is, how do you know when fear is taking up too much space inside of you? How do you know when fear is taking up too much space inside of you?
Outside of Jesus saying you're manufacture your own fear, because I mean, like clearly, then I didn't have to tell myself.
Yeah.
It's when I feel immobilized, when I'm not moving, when I feel the dissonance because I know that there is something for me to do that I'm not saying yes to. It's when I begin to recoil, and
Hmm.
then it's like not just the one thing makes me feel fearful, but it's like everything. It's like when the voices get really loud, that voice that's
Ah.
like, Anika, you can't do that. That's not for you. That's not, you know what they're
Mm.
going to say if you do. Like when that gets really, really loud and obnoxious, when it's really quiet, but it's repetitive at every little thing. Like that won't work. You see, that didn't work. You only got one
Mm.
like on that video. Nobody's listening to your podcast. Nobody's going to read your book. Like when it's real
Mm.
loud and obnoxious and when it's real quiet and persistent. Like that's when I know I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Who invited you back to the party? Because I thought I evicted you, right? Those are
Oof.
the moments where it's like, let me come back to center.
Mm.
And I would offer this to the audience as well. Begin the journey to get clear about who you know yourself to be
Mm.
without passing it by anybody else. Like, you don't need to write these things down about who you are and then share them with people. You can ask for reflections, but get clear about who you are for yourself. And then take that, write it on your journal, your piece of
Mm.
paper, put it on a post it on your wall, and sit with it. And then, and in those moments, go back and say, now, is how I'm feeling and how I'm moving in this moment align with who that paper says I am?
Ooh.
Like what God has said to me about who I am, I can sit and look at myself in the mirror and be like, "Oh no, you ain't operating like that at all right
Mm.
now. So what needs to change?" That's when you know. And if you're feeling fearful and it still feels very aligned with what you've written down, then perhaps there's really good reason for you in this moment to do more exploration before you make the next move.
So good.
Y'all. Goodness.
So good.
Naeema, what about you?
I'm I'm reminded of Rhodia Rhodes, co-founder of Evoke, saying, "Tell me who you are at your essence, and I will believe you."
Yeah.
And it made me think, Anika, like you write it down, and then you have to believe you. And so the thing that I can answer for myself is when I decide it's a real, real good idea to start bossing God around and telling God what God should be doing, and God ain't guiding, that's when I know. Day one, day one or day two of the meditation course, I'm out in my head talking to God, outside, and I'm telling God, like, if you would just tell me, because I'm real obnoxious when I get fearful because I
Mm.
think I missed it. Like I know that God told me, but I don't remember in this moment because all the voices, all of my many voices, and like when Anika's voice, when those critics come out and it sound like her Jersey self, right? Like all the voices
Yeah.
when they are then they start coming from me, it's then me getting fearful that I miss what God said, and if I miss what God said, then it's not going to come back and I'm going to get stuck, and everybody else's train has left the station, but I'm going to be stuck here. And like that whole cycle, that loop that happens, but I'm re-reminded, and I was re-reminded by day 5 of the course. I was like, oh, sorry about that, God. So let me start again. I am reminded. And the reason why it took till day 5 was the practice. Every hour, right? Every hour, come back to meditation, sit for another hour. You get a break for 5 to 10 minutes. Then you come back and you sit for another hour. And so I needed that for 5 days
Mm.
before I could get outside and be like, okay, So what I had said before, just disregard that. And it is simply this. It is your daily practices. It is your daily practices. Life is going to life.
Mm,
It is going to continue to distract you. That's its job. It is going to do the thing to pull you away from the thing that you know that you were beckoned for. And if you do not have daily rituals, daily practices that recenter you, to underscore Anika's point, then you are going to be distracted and wrapped and cloaked in your fear and all of these great ideas that are coming from all of these external people who are not walking your path. It is all going to become very muddy water. And then you're going to start downward spiraling. And the only way, in my opinion, that you unwind all of it is you come back to center. And you come back to center by the practices. Just like you can only breathe in the present, you can only ever do each of your practices every single day. Not like every other day, every third day. Yes, you too are governed by all of the universal physical laws. It's on repeat because
yeah.
we're human beings having this human experience, and it is going to require us to rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and rinse and repeat. And then surround yourself by the most amazing, badass women or men, depending if you're listening. And that's how you get re-reminded and recentered and refocused.
Yes. Y'all better come with all the wisdom, all the light. If I were to answer that question too, how do I know when fear is taking up too much space? Um, I would say when I feel that I'm consuming, like my consumption has changed. Like I am consuming more things that aren't really feeding my spirit and feeding my
Mm,
faith, right? Like you can either consume things that are going to feed your faith or consume things that are going to feed your fear. And when my consumption patterns change, I know that something's up, right? And we started off talking about how, we stay informed, but how do we stay informed when we're not consuming the news and things like that? I get to choose what I consume, and it will either feed my fear or faith. And if I'm not spending the time, right, Naima, with God in devotion, building up my spiritual aptitude, then I'm probably sitting in a place of fear. And I just know my patterns, my behavior changes. If I don't have my rituals and practices, like you mentioned, usually for me, it's first thing in the morning, I'm up early and I spend at least 20 minutes quiet meditation or journaling. Hopefully more, but at least 20 minutes. I may read a scripture. I may even go outside on a walk. But if I don't have that time to set up my day, I'm probably not consuming the things that I need that's going to feed my spirit and keep me out of this choice, right, of fear. So it truly is. What are we consuming? How are we spending our time? What are we feeding ourselves? And what are we saying yes to?
So good.
Yeah. And so I'm so glad y'all said yes to be my first guest on my first true episode outside of the opening episode of Lightwork. And I guess I'll end by asking you what lights you up? Like, how are you? I'll ask two parts. What lights you up, and how are you lighting up the world? And I'll start with you, Anika.
What lights me up is freedom.
Mm.
Is freedom. It is the space to chart my own path, which it's so funny because if I go back to childhood, that's always what I wanted. And then I got so good at figuring out how to make myself fit into whatever compartment I was in. And
Wow.
so for me, it's returning back to that freedom, that sense of like who I know myself to be. So that it lights me up to be free, to have time and space with God, to be out in nature. which I did not grow up being a nature girl. That's why Naeema was smiling all big because she knows. I'm like, girl, you in the woods again? And now I'm like, look where I am in the nature preserve today, 3 times this week, you know. Um, and how I'm lighting up the world is by doing the hard thing, which for me is stepping out from behind the curtain where I've been for a really long time, which was not my home. My
Yeah.
home was always center stage. And so getting uncomfortable in the traditional sense so I can find my freedom comfort that we talked about earlier today, to use the words that God places within me to help people find the path home. So whether it's through book, podcasts, you know, my coaching and advisory work, it's about helping people reconnect with their truth, which really
Mhm.
has been my lived experience. And so, yeah, that's how I'm bringing more light to the world.
I love
Mm.
that. And it's
You
so
too.
true. It's so true. So on brand for you. You absolutely are. And then, of course, another plug for healing is required. That's going to bring so much light to this world. Like, I
Mm,
cannot wait. You can pre order now. We'll make sure we share all the details for Anika's first book, first of many. I know healing is required.
thank you.
Naima, what lights you up and how are you bringing light to the world?
I I absolutely love your answer so much, Anika, that I was just like, oh wow, what she said. And then I remembered we are all on our own path.
We are
Think of your own
sisters, though.
answer. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Like ditto.
Mm,
Um, but the thing that I will say and underscore, the thing that gives me the most joy is being in nature because I am a nature girl.
mhm,
And I have found that I just smile more, like I'm in awe. I go to the same trail I've been doing for months now. Um, that's typically not my pattern. I usually am looking for new, you know, trails and paths. And I have this one that's 15 minutes from my house. And every time that I go out there, which is like every single day, I get to sit in awness and
mhm,
wonder. And for me, bringing that level of perspective, like when you see a trillion plus leaves, that is abundance on a level that I can barely even conceptualize, even though it is right there in front of me. So, if that is so abundant in the most natural space and place, then of course I too am it. So, by extension, I get to re-remind myself of the time when the times come that I forget. And so, in nature gives me the greatest amount of joy. And today just happened to be the very first time that I got to share nature with friends on a guided hike that I was like, girl, you know you're born to do this. Like,
mm,
th- what? What?
mm,
So, how I want to light the world up is continue to embrace and embody so that it's just me dissolving this idea of a veil of me and separate me being separate from all of the desires, like the goals and the vision that like it's all one, right?
mhm,
And for me that all centers around like how is it that I can help other people reconnect to themselves, and doing that in a place that is the most natural. And for me, reinventing is this idea about finding, like, wherever you are, reconnecting to that center, because we're all different and we change. And so I will just say that the place that I love to go has a river, and along the path. And any moment, any second that you look at the river, it is different than the river you
Mm,
saw 3 seconds ago. It is not the same because the past isn't the water that was there. And so, because that is different and it is new and renewed and it's reinventing itself every single moment, aren't we doing the same exact thing as our
mhm.
bodies and, cells die off and they're born again? And we are part of nature. So if I can be a part of helping other people reconnect to that part of themselves,
Ooh.
man, that's a life well lived. That is a life well
Ooh.
lived and full of
I
joy.
I just had so many visions about all the work you're gonna do. Not even the episode is not long enough. Oh my gosh, that's
Right.
good.
And did you hear
Anika,
her say, I am it? I mean,
yes.
I hope everybody
It
listening was
was
like,
so
I am it. Like, I
much.
hope you take the page out of
I
Dr.
Yes,
am it.
Naeema's book and rate
yes,
that for yourself because you are it. I
We are
love
it.
that.
I am it.
It's
Yes. I
beautiful.
can't wait to go on my guided hike with you. It's gonna be so good. I'm excited for you. Ladies, thank you. If I were to answer that same question, what lights me up is this.
Mhm.
This lights me up, and how I want to bring light to the world is continuing to do the light work. The work is light. Naima told me the work is light.
yeah.
So, thanks for listening in. For those tuning in, I hope that you continue on this journey with me. You are here at the beginning of the journey. So, come along. It's going to be a great ride, and I can't wait. So, thank you, Naima, Anika. You truly are just both gems. I am forever grateful.
Thank you for having us.
Mhm.
What an honor.